Skincare and the business behind it may seem confusing to Americans who are not currently spending hours of their day watching Reels or TikToks, discussing various formulas and products, but it doesn't have to be elusive. Here to talk about the business behind the sector and National Healthy Skin Month is Tom Allison, co-founder and the Senior Vice President of Global Professional Marketing at CeraVe. Tom, I'm really curious to get your origin story here. How did you get started with CeraVe and why skincare?
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine, first of all, for your interest in TheStreet. We're really excited to be on part of the program, especially as we're celebrating, National Healthy Skin Month. With that said, my origin story. So I think that before I get into kind of where we've come from this brand, I want to kind of ground everybody into what skincare means to a dermatologist. And I actually had a dermatologist explain this to me once, and I thought it was the best analogy I've ever heard. And he said, skincare, cleansers and moisturizers are to a dermatologist what diet and exercise is to a cardiologist. And he said, if you have high blood pressure, to a cardiologist, if you're not changing that diet and encouraging the consumer or the patient to exercise, you're really asking that medication to work overtime. So with that said, CeraVe was actually started as part of a pharmaceutical company in Fort Worth, Texas, a very small pharmaceutical company that was in the business of dermatology, developing topical medications. But as I said before, cleansers and moisturizers are very much part of the way dermatologists thinks about treating the entire patient's issue. So like any good pharmaceutical company, you want to work with your customer base, developing those therapeutic offerings and options to help patients get set on a course of therapy and get better as soon as possible. So the CeraVe brand started very much with humble beginnings as part of a pharma company, like I said, in dermatology, was on the bottom shelf of the local drugstore chains of Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid, with just 3 items: the hydrating cleanser, moisturizing cream, and moisturizing lotion. And those were really built as utility products to help those dermatologists treat the majority of patients that they see on a daily basis, to help control that cleansing environment and get that patient started on the right path, as well as the follow-up moisturization to drive hydration, which a lot of times is kind of the collateral damage of a lot of the skin manifestations that a derm treats every day.
You guys started in 2005, and I'm wondering, since social media wasn't yet as big as it is today, what did the skincare environment look like back then? How has it changed?
Yeah, it's a really great question. It's changed dramatically through technology. I mean, there's just a lot more ingredients out there that have become kind of go-to staples within the healthy skincare world. I mean, you've heard of ingredients, I'm sure, like hyaluronic acid or niacinamide. These are ingredients that are animated all over the place. However, I will say one of the contributing factors to CeraVe's success, it's actually part of the name CeraVe. The CERA stands for something called ceramides. And although this technology obviously existed back in 2005, it wasn't really well known, especially in the mass skincare market. And what ceramides are, Catherine, is they're part of your actually innate structure and function of healthy skin. If I can set you an analogy for the audience as well to understand what your skin looks like, imagine it being like a brick wall with your skin cells themselves stacked neatly on top of each other in a very uniform fashion. And the mortar that holds those bricks together in your skin is called your intercellular lipid or your intracellular lipid matrix. And 50% of that substance, or the substance that envelops those skin cells and holds them together, is comprised of ceramides. So as we were developing this product with dermatologists back in 2005, there was a lot of great science on the importance of skin barrier, the structure and function of the barrier, what was in the barrier, how it compared to different diseases like eczema or atopic dermatitis and acne. And it kept coming back full circle that ceramides were really part of and part of a necessary treatment to help people get better faster. So ceramide technology, although available, we were definitely the first innovators to bring it to market. And then comparing 2005 to today, I would say technology is leaps and bounds and, much better developed today, which is why I think you're seeing a lot of skincare brands pop up all over the place.
Well, and for those entrepreneurs who are trying to launch skincare brands, how can they move up from the bottom shelf like you guys have?
I'll be the first to admit it takes a while. I like to say that consistency and product performance is really what breeds reputation and trust. And it took us, like I said, from pretty humble beginnings. It took us the better part of even 5 years to develop, formulations 4, 5, and 6. So with that said, we sat with just 3 formulations for 5 years. What I think a lot of companies, when they launch today, they'll launch with a breadth of product, which becomes really challenging. And then to me, it's just getting the product out there. Obviously, social media wasn't really a thing back in 2005 like it is today. So we drove our business through the recommendations of dermatologists. They utilize this as part of a therapy, like I mentioned before. And we really built this brand from a grassroots level, one recommendation at a time. And as I said before, the product really does deliver. It makes a difference in people's skin. And what happened is we've had all of these patients that got into the CeraVe brand at the right time, at a time of need, because they went to go see a professional like a dermatologist to get better. And we delivered for them, and they were willing, and more than willing and able to spread the word through word of mouth. And then at that same time, obviously, social media really started to take shape, and we're able to exponentially grow from there. So to those entrepreneurs, I would say be true, be patient, and drive the business thinking consumer first, one purchase at a time. And then, like I said, also encourage those consumers to tell others. I think that's probably the best way to drive a business today. I think through social media, Gen Z in particular, authenticity really matters. In a sea of a lot of noise out there.
I want to have a deep dive on social media in just a second, but before we get there, I wanted to ask, we've saw the makeup industry really go through a change through COVID, especially with how people do treat their makeup. And I'm wondering if you saw a similar change in skincare.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think skincare actually gained some prominence during this time, for a few reasons. First and foremost, I think a lot of the collateral damage of what we've done through COVID, things like wearing masks or using hand sanitizer and hand washing, which was necessary for us to stay healthy and to keep, COVID off of us. That collateral damage actually causes what we call barrier degradation or barrier disruption. So, and that was just replicated as something that you couldn't really get ahead of. Especially think about your hands. You're washing your hands 10 to 15 times a day, and in between putting an alcohol-based hand sanitizer, you're going to dry out the skin, and you're not going to be able to really stay ahead of it. So what happened is there's a lot of research that was being done on how to stay ahead of some of these side effects that were unwanted but necessary, to stay healthy during the COVID period. I think another thing during COVID that happened, that also increased the awareness in terms of skincare was, you saw it typically within Gen Z, and I know we'll talk about social media in a second. These kids were home for the first time. School activities were closed. They actually started thinking, I believe, about self-treatment and use skincare in this moment to really understand and to learn more about how ingredients work within the skin, what's happening to them, throughout the adolescent and early, early stages of adulthood, as well as, like I said before, those COVID manifestations kind of delivered this perfect storm of people really interested in skincare. And we saw that across the board. I would say skincare, search was up, social media impressions, in the rise of skin influencers, all these things really started to take shape. However, from an industry standpoint, there was definitely some brands that took advantage of this more than others, and CeraVe certainly was one of them, as we tried to deliver content at that right moment, explaining what was happening, and putting the consumer's mind at ease, which then obviously translated to purchase.
Well, and it was like kind of a perfect storm almost for you guys because what's interesting is looking at skincare and for viewers who are not aware, when you go on Instagram or on TikTok, there's almost a cult-like following in skincare influencers and skincare in general where people want to know exactly what formulas are being used, what's in a product. And I'm wondering how that's changed, how and what kind of awareness that's brought for you guys in the skincare industry because people really care about what's in a product now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think it's dramatically increased in terms of the number of type of posts that these are. You know, I would say going back to when we first started, you really relied on healthcare professionals or, you know, at shelf or on product packaging to understand what was going on. But we saw this really revolution, as you said it best, people searching ingredients, understanding the mode of action of these ingredients, the rise of skin influencers that were delivering content in a very authentic way, you know, not paid, just basically on general skincare and skin knowledge, that helped contribute, I think, to, you know, to a huge increase in awareness and content. Quite frankly, you know, I'm obviously in the target audience as being in the industry, but when I are consuming social media channels, whether it's paid or inorganic and organic, you know, I'm constantly being served ads as well as, you know, organic user generated content based off of skin education. So there's no doubt that it's increased and wasn't there certainly at the beginning. But a brand like CeraVe will continue to win in this environment because of our development process. You know, under the logo CeraVe, it mentions develop with dermatologists. We develop all formulations with the dermatologist from scratch, building these things from the ground up to ensure that when we put something in market, it utilizes the very best synergistic, you know, levels of ingredients, plus our consistency of ceramides, like I mentioned before, and the importance of those will enable us to, you know, get a lot of those organic mentions, which are unpaid, and I think which drives a lot of the authenticity that is needed, especially in a noisy marketplace like it is today.
Do you guys think that you would have gotten the push from that you've gotten from social media if social media didn't exist?
Yeah, I mean, I think word of mouth always wins out. You know, it certainly helps us to exponentially grow that message, especially the way we do it. You know, we've created, for example, on our own social media channels, this idea of a CeraVe Skin Chat. We host these a couple times a month. And what these skin chats are is we bring thought leaders in dermatology. These are what we call key opinion leaders in the specialty dermatology. And we interview them for over a 30-minute segment and give them the audience and the opportunity to explain to our followers exactly what's happening through different diseases or different skin types. You know, what are the differences between Caucasian skin and black skin? What are the differences in acne and what causes it? What are some over-the-counter options for treatment and what role do cleanser and moisturizer play? You know, some of this content that we're putting out there through the voice of the dermatologist, through Q&A from the audience, is really driving, you know, CeraVe to be front and center. You know, there's, again, wherever there's conversation going to take place, people that are driving that conversation are going to need authentic places of to get the information to present. And as we are so closely aligned to dermatology, you know, even though the conversation may shift from, let's say, a skincare or skin addicts on Reddit, where CeraVe was the number one, you know, mentioned brand in 2019 as well as 2020, to new channels like you know, like Snapchat or TikTok, those influencers are going to seek to dermatologists to understand what they should recommend. So as long as we're aligned and are winning within the specialty dermatology, we see this kind of organic, natural shift that those skin influencers also kind of get our brand, understand our brand, and are willing to recommend it to their followers as well.
So TV ads used to kind of be the key when learning about brands or products, and this is a question that I've been starting to ask a lot more executives. And perhaps you can't answer it directly, which is totally fine, but could you give us a sense of how much ad spend that would go to the traditional sources, such as TV, now goes to something such as social media or influencers?
Yeah, obviously, I can't quite answer that in terms of the number of spend, but I will tell you, we are big believers even still in that traditional media. You know, we do run 2 campaigns a year. We started out with our hero product, which is a moisturizing cream, you know, television commercial, as well as launch one in cleansers, and those did extremely well. I think you'd certainly need a certain level of awareness to take advantage of that ad spend. And what we're trying to do, if you consume those content, is really explain to our listeners and followers exactly what's happening within your skin, why ingredients matter, the mode of action of what makes us unique, and particularly ceramides, and how this product can help deliver and make a difference in your compromised skin. So still a believer in that. Won't share in terms of what our split is, but we do make major investments across all available channels. I will say, though, probably our biggest expenditure, though, is making sure that we're still rooted within the specialty of dermatology. We do deploy national sales teams out there to ensure that we are sampling and bringing the latest product innovations to our dermatologist partners, who are then utilizing those, obviously, as part of a regimen to drive patients onto a path to get better.
So we've talked a lot about the positive of the internet and social media, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the negative. What kind of negative issues or outreach have you guys gotten?
In general, I mean, I think when we're consuming content at times, I think there's a lot of myths out there. And again, we'll utilize that skin chat, the CeraVe Skin Chat with dermatologists to kind of relay with the realities of what's really going on. I think we're also ground people in terms of expectations. There's a lot of claims that I've seen out there from some products that are kind of over promising how long, how quickly they can get something under a healthy environment that typically will take a longer time. Other than that, I mean, I think our general consensus, though, is the more people are educated on the structure and function and importance of your skin, the better for our business. We need more people understanding how important your skin, the role it plays in terms of your overall health. I had a great conversation with some of the leadership with the American Academy of Dermatology at a summer meeting that they were at. I mean, we were kind of talking about how do we increase more skin awareness within the general population, and we actually were thinking about and tied this example of how effective the dental industry has tied fluoride, for example, to cavity prevention and preventative medicine. I think there's an opportunity for us from a skincare standpoint to do the same thing. If you were to ask any 10-year-old on the street, what does fluoride do for your teeth? They would say prevent cavities. We're not there yet within the skin industry. And I think there's an opportunity to get to our youngest consumers and start them, understanding just how special your skin is and how important it is to take care of it.
You mentioned your skin chats, and it made me think about how overall through social media, self-care and positive body images are so important. How is CeraVe promoting those?
Yeah, what we're trying to do is obviously deliver therapeutic messages. Our brand purpose is therapeutic skincare for all. So we're just trying to do positive body image, get people understanding what's happening and driving that awareness, as well as how skincare can play a role to help them get to the place that they want, through the voice of the dermatologist, like I said, on our social media channels, really trying to empower our consumers, empower our followers to follow a regimen to get better.
So Tom, my final question for you is, as the SVP of Global Professional Marketing, do you have any insight on how the current supply chain issues that we're seeing across other industries are impacting your field?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's no doubt about it that, supply chain has been an issue. There's been a kind of an arms race for things like pumps and bottles and all that stuff. But I could tell you it's an all hands on deck approach here at CeraVe. We are working, as hard as we possibly can to make sure that we have those products in stock at your local retailer. And, I feel strongly that we're starting to make real headway into that, and we are coming out of it. And 2022 should be a much better year in terms of supply, because I know we have frustrated some consumers at time with some empty shelf spots for the CeraVe brand, almost to the point where at times we created this issue where people started buying maybe 2 or 3 bottles because they saw it on shelf, when their normal purchase habit would be 1.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I greatly appreciate you going through and spending a good 15 minutes just talking about social media with me. It's definitely something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm always curious to see how brands are handling this new shift in consumers.